Hello everybody and welcome once again to a Lunatic breakdown exclusively on the YouTubes. My name's Jason Paul.
My name is Sean Davis.
His name is Sean Davis, and we're here to discuss Ant-Man, the newest of...
We know a guy. His name's Ant-Man.
His name's Ant-Man? We know him, or Scott as they call him.
Scott Lang.
Is that his last name?
Yeah.
Paul Rudd-headed film. Doing well at the box office, but we want to give you the creative breakdown. Did we enjoy it? Did we not enjoy it? Well, I give it 9 ants out of 14 ants. The highest ants I've ever given out to a single film. In all serious notes, in one sentence, it's fun.
Yeah, it's a good family fun movie. There's no dull moments in it, and right when you think there's about to be a dull moment, it gets hit with a one-liner or comedy joke. It's pretty good.
I want to get back to the comedy. It's not constricted by the Marvel Universe. Mm-hmm. It gets better because of it. The second Avengers movie, I felt like it was constricted because it had to serve a purpose for these films that we knew were coming up. This movie could stand alone on itself, and all the extra Marvel stuff could be added in as bonus. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it could do a little bit more. It was offbeat. It was funny. It was a comedy. I don't think there's any other way to...
It's a heist comedy movie, and I think that's what separates it from the other origin stories and making it a heist movie.
It was an origin story, but it wasn't just an origin story in the sense, and it wasn't the origin story for Ant-Man, because as you see, this is obviously a spoiler review, as you will see below us, but Michael Douglas was the original Ant-Man.
Yes.
So it was cool to see Scott Lang take up the helm, and it's his origin story, but he's stepping into something that's already been there for a while, so it feels more important, as opposed to something he's just sort of creating out of himself. Because it would be ridiculous for somebody in the year 2015 to sort of make that costume, to do the, to make the choices, but that was already laid out, and it was a legacy bestowed upon him, and he was chosen to do such. I feel like it was a lot more easier to buy in, and it was more of a fish out of water type thing, because he wasn't going out, he didn't seek any of this, it all came down.
It compared to the other ones, like Iron Man, we'll use Iron Man for the example, because I think that's probably one of the best origin stories, solo movies that Marvel did, and that one he was he had like an epiphany while he was a prisoner of war, like, oh, I gotta stop making weapons and just make one weapon and stop everything.
Yeah, he created Iron Man.
He created Iron Man. What's cool with like Hank Pym and like the Ant-Man story is, it's like family oriented. Like he knew that the more you use the Ant-Man suit, it deteriorates like your brain and like molecules and all kinds of random stuff. So it was cool to see him like come to a point where he's like, I'm not gonna be able to be Ant-Man forever. Let me find someone who's exactly like me or has things that they hold truly to themselves, like his family, and that's how he related to trying to give the Ant-Man suit to Paul Rudd's character, Scott Lang, which is cool, and I like that, and because he didn't like create the suit himself, he kind of fell into it in terms of being a thief and trying to steal something. They kind of had him set up, so it's kind of cool when you see the heists and like getting ready to prepare for the heist in the movie, how like the music is really cool, like it has like a really 60s like jivey vibe.
It was you can
like Ocean's 11 a lot. I think similarities between that and
I think you can sort of pick out where Edgar Wright's writing stopped and the other sort of started. It was a plot that was very overt. It did not leave questions unanswered. It was good.
That was good. Everything was answered.
Loose ends, sometimes a little too quickly, but it doesn't matter because it told you everything. It was viable, but you can see sort of I really think it was sort of offbeat. I could see where it was going to go down more of that sort of path if Edgar Wright would have stayed on for the duration of the filming of the movie. But with that said, it still remains a lot of its own character. It feels like a Marvel movie in the sense that it looks like a Marvel movie. All Marvel movies look like they're just very bright, and they're just like it's HD, and it's hard to describe, but we all know sort of how a Marvel movie looks. And it looks like it, but it feels a little more offbeat. It feels like, the comedy. If the Avengers is more of a straight-laced thing, and although there's a lot of jokes sprinkled into the latest ones, this was played a lot for laughs. You see that from the beginning, middle, and end, and that brings me to my point that The standout in this, I think, who jumps off the screen is Michael Pena.
Yeah.
He steals every scene he's in. He's great. The other two guys he was with in their crew, T.I. plays a guy named Dave, I think. T.I.'s alright, just totally serviceable, and then there's a Russian-esque Eastern European guy who...
And I think it'll be cool to see those characters played out, like maybe starting to work for the Avengers in the following movies. And one of the funny things about this...
Michael Pena, I do think he has to be something, because I read online, props to Reddit, I don't know the username, but he did mention at the beginning he was the only one to knock out the guy in The Prisoner in one punch. Yeah. And throughout the movie, he goes on and knocks people out in one punch, which leads me to believe he has some sort of, crazy ability to punch people, which could help the Avengers.
Yeah.
And he seems to get, he sets up these jobs, who knows. I think it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you brought Michael Pena on, at least for some comic relief down the line.
For sure. I mean, definitely in terms of like working with Samuel L. or working with the Avengers crew, like him being there, because everybody's so serious all the time, so it'd be cool to have him as like the comic relief. But in terms of like the overall story, before this movie came out, people were like, oh, is it going to relate? Is it going to stand alone? No hesitation of it having to be related to the Avengers and the Marvel Universe. There's a really cool scene where he ends up fighting Falcon, which is cool, and that's his like first introduction to the Avengers, and them finding out like, oh, there's this guy who can shrink and get real big. Visually, the movie looked great. I think it was... If you liked Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, this is like the revamped Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on crack. Yeah, and it's really awesome. Like the action scene in this compared to some of the other movies is there's a lot of attention to detail with like the ants, him talking, communicating with the ants, the way things look from a smaller perspective. There was no hesitation and like the attention to detail there.
And they don't waste. They explore everything. You see a fight. You see him in a tub situation. You see him around the whole city. You see him in a sewer. You see him infiltrating things. You see him in what's the coolest thing I think artistically is a child's playroom.
Yeah,
and to be able to fight there
and
in that scale, they don't use the premise of Ant-Man to waste. Like they put him in interesting things to do.
Yeah.
And it looks visually amazing. And for something that must have been very CGI heavy, and outside of Guardians, probably the most CG heavy of these of this Marvel universe. They nail it. It looks great. And one of the great CGI things was Michael Douglas being de-aged 25 years. He looks phenomenal. A lot better than Jeff Daniels in Tron. Like, and that was a selling point of it. But they nailed it. It was really the only thing like that took you out of it was like, holy shit! I know Michael Douglas is not that young. But yeah,
and it was cool. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the beginning too. You see Agent Carter. You see Tony Stark's father in the beginning. So like this idea of creating this Pym particle was something that S.H.I.E.L.D. was trying to create back in like the early '80s. Probably started in like the '70s because they show an old school footage of him being Ant-Man and it's filmed in black and white. Like, oh, that's a myth. It didn't exist. But then, as the story progresses, you realize, yes, he was the Ant-Man. And what's cool about it, too, is because so many people have donned the Ant-Man suit in the Marvel Universe, it was cool to see that he was that, this guy wouldn't be the original Ant-Man. So maybe I know the director said talking about, like, making a prequel, which could be cool, like him, Michael Douglas being the Ant-Man. But, I mean, Marvel always looks into the future in terms of, like, creating sequels and things like that. But it's definitely going to be cool. Like, the whole time you watch the movie, you're going to be like, wow, it's going to be so cool to see him fight alongside the Avengers. Like, the different dynamics of him fighting with one of them. I know there's going to be a scene in Civil War where he's going to be on Hawkeye's bow and, like, shoot him out. So the effects and the way they take place in the movie and how they look awesome. And it's just going to be cool to see it elaborated even more in Civil War. And make sure you stay till the end. The mid-credit scene is really cool. Spoiler alert.
So there's a immediate after the
mid-credit and then the end credit.
And then there's a total end
credit. The mid-credit's really cool. You see the Wasp suit. So Janet Van Dyne will become the Wasp, which will be cool because that's a fan favorite. She's one of the founding members of the Avengers, so it's going to be interesting to see how they intertwine her and Ant-Man into the new group. And then the final end credit scene, big spoiler alert, is Sam Wilson's Falcon and Captain America, Chris Evans, interpreting the Winter Soldier. So they finally found the Winter Soldier. They're like, hey, should we tell Tony Stark? He's
and
like,
it seems
no.
like they
And
just
they're setting up. You can tell
like
they're
they happen upon. They make it. Their verbiage makes it seem like they didn't expect to like have it.
Yeah, and
Like
it was it was cool because Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier is a really good movie. I fairly enjoyed that movie in terms of a direct sequel compared to Iron Man 2 and Thor 2. I think.
Well, people say it's the best.
Yeah, it was definitely better than the original Captain America by introducing the Winter Soldier 2 because it was his good friend Bucky. So they finally capture him. And they're like, oh, we gotta lay low. And then that's when the famous line comes out again. He's like, I know a guy. Referencing to Ant-Man in terms of laying low and being small and being able to hide. So I gave it an 8 out of 10 probably. It's a really good origin-esque story. I guess you can't really call it that because he's not the original Ant-Man.
But it's his origin.
In terms of a Marvel movie,
yeah, if we're going out of 10, I'd say 7.5. Perfectly serviceable summer popcorn movie. The only other thing I want to add, the villain in the movie. I appreciated it being a human being as opposed to an alien or a robot. And they did. I don't think they developed him, sufficiently.
Like his backstory
was
there, but wasn't
too much.
But
at least it was there. There was some effort to it, and it was personal. It was personal. It was pure evil, sort of vindictiveness at play. It was not caring for the technology. And having that, destroy some of his...
And I like how
his brain.
I like how he wants to sell his suit, and it's cool because there's like, oh, these guys are from Hydra. So at the end of Captain America, you find that S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually has Hydra members in there. Avengers Age of Ultron, it starts off by them hunting down some of the Hydra members. So Hydra's still at foot, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess that means that...
and the one guy left, and spoiler, the one guy leaves with some of the Pym particles, so that goes off into another thing. So I guess that will elaborate on the future Ant-Man movies and potential bad guys for Ant-Man.
Yeah, which, again, that's why I said the Marvel Universe doesn't constrict this movie. It only lets it sort of grow in its own unique way, because they could just add those devices wherever they needed to. They weren't, like, stranglehold and that. There's going to be an Ant-Man 3 in 2019, and we have to get there.
And there's a lot of odes. What I thought was really cool is, like, the odes to the Avengers and things, is them talking about them when he's like, oh, we need you to do this. And he's like, well, you could probably ask for the Avengers. So it's funny. There's little puns taken here and there at the Avengers. But my favorite scene is probably when he fights Falcon and he accidentally infiltrates the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, the new one, which I thought was kind of funny. Like, that's supposed to be an abandoned warehouse.
Yeah, and it was Hank Stark. So again, it definitely takes place in the Marvel Universe, and it's another puzzle piece, and they're building this very elaborate puzzle that people are continuing to buy the pieces for. And this one, I can say with no qualms that you should go see it. It's fun. It's I'd compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's a fun summer movie that is I think can be enjoyed by anybody.
Yeah. I think if you don't enjoy it, something's wrong with you.
Stuff for adults, stuff for everybody. So thanks everybody for watching. There's a little breakdown. Follow us here on the YouTubes, on the Twitter @Lunatic Creative, on the Instagram @Lunatic_creative. Go to our website www.lunaticcreative.com. Facebook. We're everywhere that you are. Just say hello.
Periscope, even periscoping.
Periscoping a shitload. So, find us absolutely anywhere, folks, and feel free to say hi. So thanks for watching. For Sean Davis, I'm Jason Paul.
Peace out.